Let us say a few words about Tiberias, because we can't see a lot of it, not only very small pieces. As you already know, Herod Antipas decided, like his father, to build a city and to dedicate it to the emperor. That's every client king is doing. And although Tzipori was his capital and he had a palace there, he was searching for an appropriate place on his property to build a palace, and Galilee is not a great place to build palaces here and there. It's mountainous. And so he found this piece of land along the Sea of Galilee, which was appropriate. And meaning appropriate, for example, is, as I already mentioned, a capital, a city, a polis should have an aqueduct. So you cannot build a city on the top of a mountain if you can't bring water over there. So the place was found over here, and the aqueduct comes from 17 kilometers away from one of the few springs south from here. And it comes to the city right above the theater here, known many kilometers along the way. And Josephus gives us a very interesting story about the establishment of the city. He says that when Herod Antipas decided to build here a capital, a city, a polis, he built it, but no one wanted to come and live here, because according to the Jewish traditions, it was built on graves. As I mentioned already, tombs are impure. So Josephus said, what do you do? What a king does when the people don't want to come to sit in the city he built. He said, he brought all these robbers and thieves from the fringes of the society and said, oh, come on, you have a place to live. And this was the first, according to Josephus, this was the first settlement. Jokers like me said that it never changed until today with the Tiberians. They're still the descendants of the same people.
Now the graves are the reason they want to live here.
That's right. And the story comes back about 200 years after. When Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, one of the greatest rabbis of the Mishnah, he is told that the people of Tiberias had a problem. The city has to develop, and according to Jewish law, you must take the tombs away to let the city grow, otherwise you're stuck. But the problem is not with the tombs you can see on surface. No problem, you can evacuate them, put them in another place. But with the tombs you don't see, so you will not build over tombs. But Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is not like the modern rabbis, and excuse me, everybody. He was much smarter. He came, he took some kind of a plant, and he walked over the land and said, all the tombs that are close to the ground, all the bones that are close to the ground, come up. And all the bones that are not close to the ground, go deeper 7 meters deep, and then there is no impurity. And he said, okay, you can come and build. Because everyone that wanted to look to the ground, they see that there are no bones coming up. So there are no bones. And all the rest are going down. You build. Okay, this shows what is a smart rabbi. And it's contradict everything that happens here in the country for the last 70 years. And Tiberias continued to develop and became the most important city of Galilee, more than Tzipori. The Sanhedrin came and settled in the town. The patriarch was here, as we already said, and it's growing. The known edge of the city today is the last white hotel you see over there. From there to here is a city. In the Roman period, maybe even in the Byzantine period, but mainly in the Roman period. It continued to exist during the Byzantine period, of course, although maybe shrunk a little bit. And in the early Islamic period, it became an important city. It was the capital of the entire region and became an important large city. It was so important that after the earthquake of 749 that we spoke about at Hippos, the town was rebuilt. Hippos was not, Bechan was not, but Tiberias was rebuilt and became again an important city, minting coins over here in the Islamic period. And the Jewish population was large and important. And then it fell, deteriorated again after the Crusader conquest. And the Crusader town was only in the area of the hotels. All the rest was abandoned. And this was the limits of the small neglected city during the late Islamic period, Turkish period, Mandate period, a mixed city of Jews and Muslims, and a little bit of Christians. There is a church of St. Peter in the town. And until the War of Independence, where the town was conquered and much of it was destroyed. There were beautiful, beautiful houses there in the Ottoman and Mandatory period, but all gone with the wish to build a new state. So this, in short, this is the story of Tiberias. Today it's a problematic modern city. It is by the only lake that we have in Israel, which could be a pearl in the crown of Galilee and Israel. Such a beautiful lake, such an important lake. Half of the population of Israel is here every year. But Tiberias looked like a, if Gaza will develop, it will be similar. And it is very sorrow because it's a poor city. Its population is almost half ultra-religious people, and the municipality cannot raise its head above the water, and every money that was invested here was lost into the big deep holes of debts that they have. And this is also the story of the theater. Excavations in Tiberias, the glory city, started in the time of the British Mandate because there was a flood in the 40s, if I remember well. A big flood, many people were killed. Some parts of Tiberias were thrown into the Kinneret. And the British authorities decided to build a big ditch that will take the water in the next flood around the town. And they discovered some antiquities here, and they excavated, and they found the southern gate of Roman Tiberias, what's called Jerusalem Gate. And it was later on buried by another flood. And then it was re-excavated by Israeli archaeologists in the 70s, and then buried again by another flood. And then came the Lebanese War, the Second Lebanese War, in which few Katyusha missiles or Qassam missiles, I don't remember what they were, flew from Lebanon and fell in Tiberias. And that was terrifying for the people of Tiberias, because they're not used to it, because people in Kiryat Shmona are living with them almost daily. But here it was, so, general director of the Ministry of Finance was a Tiberian person. So the Ministry of the Prime Minister, Ehud Olmert, succeeded in bringing some money from the government to poor Tiberias. They said, we are going to invest now money in Tiberias that was hit by missiles. And we will make Tiberias the glorious city in Israel, by the lake. And first of all, we need to change all the sewage system of Tiberias. And they put some millions of shekels. And then the people in the city said that the banks, the minute they will put the money in the bank will take it, because they owe the bank so much money that there will be no money. So what they did is they opened a project with the Israel Antiquities Authority of excavating ancient Tiberias. They put all the money in the account of the Israel Antiquities Authority, and the Israel Antiquities Authority was responsible to change all the sewage system in Tiberias. They didn't do it, they just paid the people, otherwise the bank will take the money. But they also dug here. First of all, they dug the gate, the third time. It's very cheap because you don't get anything from the antiquities, you don't have to publish because it's already excavated twice. It's only cleaning operation, and it's over there. I'll tell you in a minute what happened. And then someone remembered that there was one archaeologist, Izar Hirschfeld, who said that he think that he found the corner of the theater of Tiberias. That's of course made people so wishing that if we will find a theater here, it will be like in Caesarea, and all the great singer of Israel will come to sing in Tiberias. They forgot that Caesarea is half an hour driving to Tel Aviv, not Tiberias. In any case, the money went for archaeology, and they dug here a theater, good. Its state of preservation is not very different from Caesarea. Caesarea is almost completely rebuilt. And everyone was happy. They named the theater after the name of Amir Drori, the founder, the establisher of the Israel Antiquities Authority. They built this and gone. And the money was finished. The sewage system was finished. The excavations were finished. And the rest, again, as I maybe said to some of you, the problem with Tiberias is not the lake and not the mountains. The problem is the Tiberians. The people is the problem. If you take the people out from here, it will be a great city. So, as you can see now, it's abandoned, neglected, deserted, after millions were put here. And you can see the shrubs are growing on the main stage of the theater. I have a friend here who worked with Izar Hirschfeld for a few years in the excavations here, and he devoted the rest of his life to keep Tiberias, antiquities of Tiberias clean and accessible to the public. And he comes here every week or two with workers that he hires, and they are cleaning the theater.
He hired me.
You were paid?
No.
So you're not hired. You volunteered.
Even a falafel.
Okay. If you got a falafel, that's hiring. So that's a sad situation, but this is a situation. So what about archaeology here? This is the story of Tiberias, but what about archaeology? This theater was excavated properly and scientifically by a IIA scholar, Dr. Walid Atrash, who excavated or re-excavated the theater at Bet Shean, and he is the only person in Israel who ever published final report of a theater. Okay, there are very few in the world, because many of them were excavated in the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century, and not everything was published in a scientific way. But he did it. He excavated this one as the second theater, after Bet She'an, and he knew what he was doing, and he declared that the first stage of this theater is 1st century. First stage is probably the first two blocks of seats, 1 and 2, and the addition is the third one, which was over there. And he, yes, you see here, 1, 2, and 3. And this, of course, is an important, very important information, because it proves that Herod Antipas really built here a Roman-style city. We have the Cardo, which was not excavated, but the gate was excavated and dated to the 1st century. There is another monument which was excavated in the first white hotel you see here behind the water slides, and over there a small piece was excavated, but it was declared as the stadium of Tiberias. So there's another public structure, amusement structure that was built here. And Josephus says that when he wanted to gather the people of Tiberias to talk to them, because Tiberias was not always with him, although it was his headquarters, he gathered them in the stadium. And there were many, many people there, and he started to talk to them, and they were not very happy about what he was saying, and there was noise in the audience that told him that maybe he's going to die here, so he jumped from the stadium to a boat. So the stadium was on the beach, and that's what happened there. It was found on the beach of the Kinneret. So we know that this is a stadium that existed there in the 1st century, and so is probably the theater. And that goes to a discussion over the theater in Sephiroth. As I mentioned, that some scholars suggested it was only in the 2nd century, and some suggested that the first stage is first. And I think this is the same. He built there a theater because he wanted to build a Roman-style city, and when he established Tiberias, he built here another one. What you can see here is at the back, you can see the niches of the what's called the scanophrons, the big wall in front of the audience. Although we are standing here today as modern people, say, what a view. When going to Caesarea, you sit at Caesarea and the Mediterranean is in front of you. He said, what a view they had. There was no view, there was a big wall. No one saw the view. Not there and not here. There was a big wall here that was used as the backstage of the theater. Beautifully decorated. In the pagan cities, it had a lot of statues. Here, one was found, even this one is a surprise, but it was beautifully decorated. And then you have the stage on which the performance did their plays. In front of it are little niches. In a pagan theater, it also had statues. And then you have the orchestra. This is the flat area in front of the stage, which was usually made for the rich audience to lie down on sofas close to the stage. And sometimes in some theater, and here it is discussed in Sephiroth as well, it can be used for water scenes. In Caesarea as well. You close the side entrances, there's an aqueduct leading water to it, you have about half a meter of water on the orchestra, and you can make water scenes like battles in ships, of course, small, remote control, and dancing in water. This is what sometimes was in the orchestra. And there, of course, the seats, the cavea, the 3 caveas of seats. You can see that here reconstructed pillars on the top, and that partly was connected to the fact that you can cover the theater with vellum, with a cloth. It was made like the sails of ships, and the people who operated it were from the Navy. And there's a lot of fishermen over here that know how to do it. And you can make shade because they were not doing their plays at night like we do. They were doing during the day. The end of the theater was in the Byzantine period. It's deteriorated, and in the big earthquake of 749, the fault line where the two blocks were moving both sides of the rift is going through the theater. If you look at the over there at the last quarter of the lower seat, you can see that it is sunken. The rift goes through there and through the stage and continued. The theater was torn into two, small piece and large piece. And after that, in the late Islamic period, a rich neighborhood was built over the remains. Beautiful houses with fountains that got water from the same aqueduct. And in few of them, pig bones were found, and therefore the excavator assumed that this was a Christian community, because the Muslims don't eat pork. So this is the story of Tiberias and its theater and the archaeology of Tiberias. And I'm sorry, usually I'm a very optimistic person. But concerning Tiberias, I think that if you come back here in 20 years, it will be the same or worse. And I'll be very happy to know that I was wrong. Questions? Okay. Yes.
How long did the aqueduct work for?
How long?
Yeah.
17 kilometers, if I remember well.
No, I mean, how many years did it keep working?
From the 1st century to the 8th century.
Wow. Well done.